Hey everyone, today I just felt like getting cozy and having a nice coffee chat with you and talking about something that I have been dealing with myself lately, as well as that I get a lot of questions about this from my viewers. So we're going to discuss mental health tips during lockdown or during the pandemic and kind of discuss that pandemic blues and how to feel better. And we're also going to make a really nice coffee drink to enjoy as well. So when I was researching lockdown tips, what mostly came up were productivity videos and how to be super productive during lockdown or during the pandemic. And for me personally, I feel that this is not a time where we need to be or strive towards being very good at lockdown or making the most of it in terms of being super productive, because it is all just very new and weird and challenging at times. And for me, I notice I'm just trying to get through this the best way I can and set myself up so that I can take care of my own well-being and not make it something that I need to ace, or if I don't use this time to get all kinds of things done, that I kind of failed at lockdown. So instead today, I just wanted to sit down and have this cozy chat with you and share some personal things that I have been doing that have been really working out well for me and that hopefully can help you out as well. But first, we're going to make a really nice cup of coffee, and I chose a drink from Sadia from Pickup Limes, and I'll leave her recipe video in the description box in case you want to try it out for yourself. It is a coconut cream caramel latte, I think she called it, and it is absolutely amazing. So let's get to it. So I've got my ingredients here. And I don't know if you are currently in lockdown where you are. We currently are in lockdown. This is our second lockdown. The first, I think, lasted about 3 months, and then the current one started in October, so it's been about 5 months now. And this lockdown is also a bit stricter than the previous one, with the restaurants and everything closed, but also all the shops are closed. So everything is closed basically, except for takeout. So I'm just gonna put this on to boil. I'm making this cup of coffee decaf because earlier today I had a regular cup of coffee and I also had a matcha. So I am finding this second lockdown to be a lot harder to deal with than the first for some reason. It is taking a heavier toll on my mental health. And there's just so much going on. It is very overwhelming at times, and I think it's perfectly understandable that we might feel out of sorts. We're just gonna let this boil for a couple minutes so that it caramelizes. It tastes like Christmas. All right, so the first tip is to accept that this is not something that we need to be successful at, and not to put any pressure on ourselves to do lockdown right. First of all, you might not even be in lockdown, or you might be in lockdown depending on where you are. But there's many people who still need to go to work every day. So it's not like everyone can just spend their days at home and that everyone has like these seas of free time that we didn't have before. And it's like we need to use this time to learn 5 languages and exercise and get really fit and get all kinds of home chores done, or like projects in the house, or make sourdough bread every day. And I just don't think that we need to put that pressure on ourselves. So I try to approach these days just like I approach all my days, just trying to make the most of it and work with what you got, but also not to put any more pressure on myself than is necessary. And I don't feel like we need to treat this lockdown time as if it were something that we need to be very successful at and like emerge as totally different persons on the other side. Something else that I have noticed is very helpful is to have some small things to look forward to. Because one of the things that I'm struggling with right now, and that I hear a lot from other people, is that every day is the same. And it's like this rut, that it's very easy to get in this rut and feel kind of stuck. And so I find it helpful to have little things to look forward to. Even if they're tiny, just small things like a good cup of coffee in the morning, or taking a little bit extra time during breakfast so that I can slowly wake up and watch the city outside grow light. These are the moments in my day when I really look forward to them. And I think that is important because otherwise it just gets really stale. So I'm curious if you have something like this too, where you just need something to look forward to, and what is that thing that you like to look forward to? Please leave that in the comments, because maybe we can inspire each other that way. Number 3 is something that's kind of adjacent to that, and that is to try new things. Even if you are confined to your own living space, try adding something new to the mix to make sure that you don't get stuck. I, for one, find that I need something new every once in a while to get the juices flowing, whether that be something creative or trying out a new recipe. Right now I am learning a new song on the piano. Just new things, not necessarily buying new things, but doing new things, kind of switching it up, so that that variety that we are currently lacking in lockdown kind of happens a little bit anyway. I actually like to do things that I've done before, so like read books that I've read before or watch movies that I've watched before. Somehow it's super relaxing to me. So I didn't think that this would affect me so much, but it really does. And I now get excited by trying something new. For example, this evening, I'm gonna make something new for dinner. It's gonna be like this vegetable tagine with orzo, which is kind of like rice type pasta-ish thing. And I get excited by these things now, and it really does help a little bit anyway. Number 4 that I wrote down for this video is to realize that all your feelings are valid and that it is okay to feel how you're feeling. And I noticed in myself lately that I am struggling a little bit with lockdown, but I kind of beat myself up about that because I also realize that I have so much to still be grateful for, and there are so many people out in this world who have it a lot harder than I have it in this time. So for example, me and my boyfriend both still have jobs, we still have an income. We haven't lost anyone dear to us to COVID. We have a home, you know, all these different things. We basically have everything we need. So who am I to feel badly in this whole thing, because there's so much that I should feel grateful for. And on the one hand, I feel like it is good to have that perspective and not to lose sight of the fact that you have it still very good, and to keep that in mind, and I do. But on the other hand, if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or if I'm struggling a little bit during the day or in the evening, that is valid too. I'm allowed to have these feelings, and just kind of pushing them away and being angry at them for being there is not going to help me or anyone else even. And it is perfectly normal to feel out of sorts. So I just started to accept that my feelings are valid, and not to say that I'm going to go like to have them completely wash over me and take me away and I go into this pity land of woe is me. I'm not saying that, but just acknowledging it, seeing it, noticing it, and thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I'm feeling like this or that. That's fine, and how can I take care of myself during this time? By the way, if you are enjoying this video, I would love it if you could give it a thumbs up, because that helps, and if you could subscribe to the channel, because that also helps. And you will get weekly tips and inspiration for inviting more simplicity, calm, and happiness in your everyday life. Number 5 I found helpful is to have a few non-negotiables. And by non-negotiables, I mean just things that you do, preferably every day, that are non-negotiable for you because they help you out so much. So for example, for a lot of people, one of the non-negotiables that they have is that every day they still get dressed and maybe put on makeup or do their hair or just their usual routine of getting ready, because that helps them feel accomplished and ready for the day. I personally still wear pajamas most days, to be honest, so that's not really one of mine, but that is one of a lot of people that I read about. For me, I have one that I started doing about 2-3 weeks ago that I find to be very helpful, and that is reading. So strangely, one of the things that truly relaxes me during the day and gets me out of the whole thing is reading. And so one of my non-negotiables now is to have a 30-minute reading break, either at the end of my workday before I cook dinner or somewhere in the evening. I usually read when I'm in bed before I go to sleep, but reading makes me very sleepy if I'm already a little bit tired. So usually I can only read for like 10 or 15 minutes and then it's, lights out. So I don't really get a lot of reading done that way. So I started introducing these 30 minutes reading breaks in my day, during which I kind of curl up under a blanket and I light my candle and I put on some lo-fi and I have a cup of tea and I read my book. And there's nothing quite as relaxing for me as that. And so I figured, okay, if I love this so much, if this helps me so much, I'm gonna make it one of my non-negotiables. And I make it work, I'd say about 5 days a week. Sometimes I just don't have time, but most days I do, and it really helps. And if you want to know exactly what books I'm reading, I'm actually filming a new video for my Patreon subscribers this afternoon, where I do a complete book tour and discuss all the books on my e-reader. So if you are interested, you can go to patreon.com/simplehappyzen to sign up. It's a great way to support the channel and get some extra content. Number 6 of the kind of mental health during the pandemic situation tips is to have some sort of structure to your day and to make it consistent. I remember the first lockdown, I was kind of all over the place, and during that time it was all right because I felt like it was so temporary. It was only 3 months and I got through it pretty well, I'd say. So I didn't really think about it. But the second lockdown now, I also started with not really having a routine, and that kind of threw me off. So I like to have a routine now where I wake up exactly the same time every day. On weekdays it's 6:30 and on weekend days it is 7:30. And I watch the city light grow lighter, and that is such a wonderful moment in my day, maybe even my favorite moment, where I know, okay, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna make a really nice breakfast or eat a really nice breakfast because I've made it the night before, which is also part of my routine. And I'm gonna cut up some fruits and enjoy breakfast and have a really nice cup of coffee while I watch the city grow lighter and chat a little bit with my boyfriend before we start the day. Then I'm gonna do my makeup and get ready, and then I'm gonna meditate for a little bit, and then I'm gonna work, etc., etc., etc. And I'm not saying that you need to do exactly everything the same every day, but just having a little bit of structure there, I think, can really help, because we are used to that structure. When we're not in lockdown, we usually also have kind of a routine. And so I find that it does really help to have something like that, because it's kind of like a safety net, or like this safe place to which we can always return whenever we feel overwhelmed. Tip number 7 that I wrote down is to reach out to people and to have some kind of human connection still. And actually I've read somewhere, I found it very interesting, that it said that lockdown is even harder for introverted people than for extroverted people. I'm not exactly sure how correct that is, but you would say that extroverted people find it very difficult because you are just kind of by yourself or only with your roommates or the people that you live with, and they get their energy from spending time with others. But the article said that for introverts, it is really easy for us to kind of go into that comfort zone of being by ourselves and not really reaching out to others. We have a harder time of reaching out to others and seeking that connection still. But we need it just as much as everyone else. We also need to have that connection and to have those conversations. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do now is to actively reach out to people, whether that is video chatting or calling someone or sending them a text, at least once a day. And it doesn't have to mean that you have to spend an hour each day with people talking on the phone. It can be very quick. But just ask them how they're doing, share how you're doing, and I think that is very important during these times. Something else that I wrote, and this is a hard one for me, that is moving our body every day. So what happens to me when I get into this kind of rut? I get into the rut like in all aspects of my life. So I become a couch potato. And the less I do, the less I want to do, and I get really lazy, and I just don't want to have to move my body and be physically active. And that's not good. I notice that if I am physically not being active, then my mind is not active and the creativity is not coming, and eventually the positive juju and the positive energy and the optimism about life kind of dries out if you don't move your body. I feel like that's where it starts. So just do something every day. That is what I'm trying to do now. It doesn't have to be something very complicated. Sometimes I'll do yoga, sometimes I will go for a walk, sometimes I'll do something a little bit more active like Pilates. How do you say that? Pilates? Yeah, in Dutch we say Pilates. Something like that to get my body moving, just some stretching or whatever it is. And I do find that when I start these things, I'm always like, oh, I don't want to. That's just how it works for me. But then when I do, I always feel better. All right, number 9 of the tips that I wanted to share with you today is to try to not take on worries that are not yours to solve. And so, for example, for me, what really helped was doing a news break. So of course, I stay informed if something changes to the lockdown restrictions here. Of course, I will read it and, inform myself, for example, but I don't need to know exactly how many new patients there are today or problems in the hospitals or things that are completely outside of my control and outside of my sphere of influence because it's not something that I can solve, and it's not helping anyone if I burden myself with these worries. So if you do recognize that, try to see if your news intake can be decreased a little bit here and there, or if there's something else that you can do to get some emotional distance and to not take on the burden of the world onto your own shoulders. Hey, it's Editing Vera here. I was editing this video and I remembered there was something else I wanted to discuss and I forgot to in the video, and that was taking on worries about things like restaurants, shops, coffee shops, things like that going out of business. I have been very anxious about our economy and if businesses are going to survive this whole thing. And what I've been trying to do instead is, if you recognize this, see if there is something that you can do to help out local small businesses. For example, I get frequent coffee to go, or I get some cakes as takeout from a local small coffee shop that I want to support. And so that is something that I can actually do, but beyond that, I try not to worry about it too much. And so focus on the practical side of what you can actually do to help, and don't focus on basically all the other things. And the last thing that I want to share, and I hope this doesn't sound too preachy because I really don't mean it like that, but focus on gratitude and also do something to enforce that gratitude. That is what I've been trying to do lately. So focus on what you do have and focus on what is good in your life. And I know this is kind of a contradiction of what I said earlier about all our feelings being valid, but it is about having both of these pictures in our head and kind of finding a balance. And for example, lately I have been cleaning a little bit more because I found that I am very grateful to have such a nice, safe, cozy, comfortable apartment to live in during these times, and to social distance in my home. And so something that you can enforce that gratitude with is taking action. So I've been taking care of my home a little bit better by cleaning it, and etc., etc. If something that you are grateful for is a relationship that you have with someone that you live with, maybe you can do something to enforce that, or call a friend, or whatever it is. But I do find that it helps to get that perspective and not go into this rabbit hole of negativity too much anyway, and to find something that you can do that lifts you up, because I do think that gratitude is the biggest source of happiness. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this cozy coffee chat, and let me know how you think. How are you doing? How is the situation where you are? And are you doing something that helps you get through this and set yourself up right and take care of your well-being? Please share that in the comments with me and everyone else. If you are experiencing some stress right now, then this video is going to be very helpful for you. And right here, I have another cozy coffee chat about self-care. As always, questions, comments, and conversations down below. Have a lovely day, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.